Hey everybody, it's your bipolar buddy Ren. How you doing? If I seem a little bit licorice, all out of sorts today, it's because I kind of am. But I figured, hey, I put this video together. I may as well record it today, even if I'm not in a great place, because that's the nature of bipolar. You never know what you're gonna get on any given day. What I really wanted to talk about today is that honestly, if you're bipolar, relationships are really, really hard. This is something that's come up recently in my life, something I've heard a lot about that, a lot of other people who have bipolar experience and are worried about. It's something I've been talking to my bipolar bestie about. And so I thought, today might be the day to talk about that. It's really hard to maintain relationships, whether they are platonic or romantic or even familial, when you're a person who has bipolar. And so I'd like to talk a bit about what it's like to try to have a relationship with someone like me, how you can be there, what some general tips are for maintaining and strengthening those relationships. So, first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about just like how it feels to be the person with bipolar. Um, Living with it is really hard, to say the least. Um, Even when medication is working well, even when you're going to therapy or you're using your skills that you learn in therapy to help maintain your mood, even when everything is perfectly balanced, bad days are going to happen. It's inevitable. There are bad days, bad weeks, bad months, whatever it might be, it's going to happen. It it's really there's nothing we can really do about it, unfortunately. And I think that's often not as understood as we would like it to be. That we can be doing everything right and mood episodes are still going to happen. It's really not a matter of if these things will be there, if the depression will come back, if the mania will come back. It's a matter of when it's going to come back and how severe it's going to be. Those episodes are always going to happen, and that sucks. It really sucks to know that you can be perfectly stable for a while and it's just going to happen someday, and you can't control it, and you can't completely prevent it. You can't make it stop. Can you make it better? Make it less severe? Absolutely. That's what medications and therapy are for, to help make it less severe and perhaps even less frequent. But you can't stop it completely. There's really nothing you can do, and it's really frustrating. It's frustrating for us. We know it's frustrating for the people around us because it seems like, just get your shit together. Take your medications. Go to therapy. What's wrong with you that you're not, that this isn't working? Can't you just be happy? It's like, yeah, we're doing our best. I'm doing my damn best. And sorry, that's just not a realistic life. It's not a realistic view of what it's like to live with bipolar. So like I said, episodes are, they're pretty unpredictable, and they still happen. It's always going to be a part of our lives, and that doesn't feel great. It feels horrible, especially because we know that when these episodes happen, we are not easy to be around. We are not easy to talk to. We are not easy to be near. It's hard for us. So we know, we are fully aware that it's hard for y'all. We get it. Believe me, we totally understand. It's hard for our friends, it's hard for our family, it's hard for our romantic partners. And so when we end up losing people, when people distance themselves, when people walk away, when relationships end, we know that the bipolar is part of the reason why. It is a reason. Is it always the full picture? Not necessarily, but it's a reason. And that really is a lot to carry. It's hard to come to terms with, because you start to hate yourself when you see that who you are drives people away and you can't do anything to fix that or make it stop. It's hard not to hate yourself, to think nobody will ever be able to love you or be by your side, that no matter what you do, you're going to be alone because the bipolar is just too much. It's too much to be around. Um, so, if there's someone with bipolar in your life, just keep that in mind, that it's hard for everyone. It really is. And it's part of the reason that we feel so badly about ourselves, so many of us with bipolar, because it's hard and we can't fix it. And we can't make people want to stick around. So, to try to avoid this, a lot of people, I don't do this as much anymore, but I used to, a lot of people who have bipolar do what's called masking when they're around other people, pretending that things are okay, even when they're not, even when everything is falling apart and you can barely get out of bed, you can't feed yourself, you can't bathe, you can barely do anything. You'll pretend that everything's okay around people because you don't want them to see how hideous you feel inside. You don't want them to not want to be around you anymore. You don't want them to hate you or to think that you are too much to love, too much to care for, too much to be around. So a lot of us mask around people. We hide parts of our lives, we hide parts of ourselves, and it's painful to feel like you have to do that for people to want to be around. Having to put that cheery face on all the time is exhausting. It's already exhausting trying to deal with your depressive symptoms or your manic symptoms or just not being stable, cycling throughout the day, cycling on a weekly basis, whatever it is. It's so hard to pretend that things are okay on top of that. And when you feel like you can't just be you, who you are around people, especially the people who really matter to you, the people you love, your family, your romantic partners, your best friends, it's really lonely. You feel very alone when you can't just be you around anybody without fear. And honestly, there's just really no ideal, because if we are ourselves around people, it's difficult for them. If we mask, it's difficult for us. So what is there we can do? What can be done about that? How are you going to make relationships work between people who have bipolar and people who don't? And it's something I still struggle with. I'm approaching, I'm going to be 40 within a few years, and it's still hard to find friends who understand, who will be there, who I can rely on. At this point, I basically have one really, really good friend who was also bipolar. That's how we met. That's how we bonded. And we're each other's ride or die friends. And sometimes we don't have other people. And that's hard. It's very hard. So what I want to talk about now is kind of what are some things that you can do for the bipolar person in your life who you care about that can help make things a little easier for you and make things a little easier for them, so that you can keep that relationship going without one or both of you being driven into the ground. So there are a few things that you definitely want to keep in mind. It's important to be there for each other as much as possible. This isn't a one-way street. We don't expect, at least I know when I say we, I'm talking, generally, doesn't apply to everybody, but um, I know I want to be there for the people in my life when they're struggling, when they have anxieties and stressors, and when they're upset, when they're angry, when they're hurt. I want to be able to be there for them as much as I can. And so I want them to also be able to be there for me. And, I understand this doesn't mean that you take on everything of that person. You don't take on all of their burdens, all of their feelings, because you're going to drive yourself into the ground, and that's not good for anybody. Nobody should do that. I'm not by any means saying take everything on, be there every second of every day, because that's not reasonable. But the thing that really matters is that if you have someone in your life who has bipolar, that you try. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be there all the time, but both of you really need to try. Try to be supportive of each other. And again, not all the time, but when you can, when you have the emotional bandwidth to be there for the other person. And, there's some things that this might look like. Sometimes just listening, not trying to problem solve, not trying to fix things, just being emotionally present and listening and reassuring, that sucks. I'm sorry that's how things are. And you just listen. You don't need to fix. That's not your job. Can you give advice if it's asked for? Sure. But the most important thing is to just listen and just be present for each other. Something else that you could do to really be there for each other is just checking in. It doesn't have to be a phone call. It doesn't have to be a huge thing. Just send a text, real quick, how have things been? Or, I know things have been rough lately, so just wanted to know how you're doing. Or, how's your day going? Simple, quick little text just to let them know that you're thinking about them and that you care. Um, this could also be that, you are just in the same physical space. Maybe you go to a coffee shop, you each have coffee, and you sit down and you do some writing or some reading, or you sit on your phones, or just be near each other, because that physical presence can make such a difference. It can be so comforting just to be near someone who cares about you, because they are physically there. They're making that effort. They're investing that time in you, even if it's not completely focused on you, but making time to be near you speaks volumes. So, sit near each other. You don't have to talk. Put a movie on. Maybe you chat about the movie a little bit, or maybe you just sit there and you quietly watch it. But that physical presence can mean so much. There's some other ways you can be there. Give them a hug. If you're a hugger, not everybody is, but give them a hug. Tell them that you care about them. Tell them that you love them. Remind us that we're doing a great job handling things, even if it's not perfect. It means so much for someone to just say, you're doing a great job, because it doesn't ever feel like we're doing a great job in the moment. It feels horrible and like we are screwing everything up, messing up everything. And so just hearing that someone sees that we're trying our best and that our best is good enough makes a huge difference. Saying things like, it's okay to struggle. It's okay that things aren't good right now. It's okay. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to try to be perfect. It's okay to just be who you are right now. It's safe to be who you are. It's good enough to be who you are. Another thing you can remind them of is that it will be okay again someday, even if it doesn't feel like it. And you don't really want to cross that line into, oh, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Or, don't try to fix again. Just a gentle reminder that, yeah, things suck right now, but it will be okay. It's going to be okay again someday because it's been okay before. Even if it doesn't feel like it, you will get through it. Also, when things are difficult for the person with bipolar in your life, please don't just disappear until things stabilize for them. It's okay to need time and space. Absolutely. Take that time and space. Take care of yourself. Attend to your own mental health. But just communicate that. Just be honest. Say so. It's really important to communicate your needs for anybody in any kind of relationship. And if you need space, just say, hey, I'm sorry. I can't help with this right now. I've got a lot going on. I need to take a day or two. I'm going to be in contact less, but it doesn't mean that I don't care. I just want you to know if I'm not texting or calling or whatever, that it's not that I don't care. It's that I'm taking care of me. Make sure the other person knows what's going on so they don't read too much into it. Take it personally, because bipolar, there's a lot of overthinking and overanalyzing, and a lot of it is negative. We catastrophize. You go to the worst case scenario instead of thinking like, okay, well, maybe my friend's just kind of busy today or has a lot going on. You go to, oh my God, they haven't texted me. Why haven't they texted me? Do they not like me anymore? Was I too emotional the other day? Have I been too much? Am I too much? Should I have said something different or not said something about this? Or, and your mind just races and it gets worse and worse and worse. And suddenly you think the world is ending, or at least the relationship is ending. And so communication, super important. Open and honest communication in any kind of relationship. Super, super important. But again, if you can be, try to be there even a little bit. Even just a little bit. But above all, it's so important that you take care of your own mental health. Like if I had a friend, I'd want them to attend to their mental health, just like I have to attend to mine. And sometimes that means you can't be there. And that's okay. Because I can't always be there for everyone either. I can't handle it. I can't take on their emotions or their stress because I have too many of my own. And that's okay. I want you to know that. It's okay to have a boundary, to state your needs. But please just don't use that boundary as a reason to never be there for the person with bipolar in your life. Because when that happens, when we notice that someone is consistently avoiding having anything to do with us when we're not doing well, that sends the message that it's not okay to be who we are, that we are not good enough, that we are not loved, that we should try to be somebody else if we want someone to stick around. Whether you mean to communicate that or not, that's how it feels. And it's a lot to carry, and it's hard to work through. So be there when you can. Step up from time to time. It doesn't have to be all the time. Just try. Effort speaks volumes. But anyway, take care of your mental health, because I know that I don't want to drag people down with me when I'm not doing well. And I feel confident saying there are probably a lot of people out there with bipolar who feel the exact same way. We don't want to drag you down with us. We know we are down in the depth of the muck, and we don't want anyone to have to be there with us because we know how hard it is. But if you can be there, even just a little bit, please do. Um, and so way that you can do this to look after your mental health without abandoning the person in your life who has bipolar is to just be honest. Like I said, communicating. I'm struggling a lot with stress or anxiety or, whatever, fill in the blank right now. So I can't talk as often, or I'll be out of touch for a couple days, whatever it happens to be. Just use your words. Um, Another way, you could, say something like, hey, I'm happy to listen about like work or if they're student school. But right now, I can't handle listening to things about, and be honest. What are the topics that you can't handle listening to right now? And just be clear and upfront, and, you know, just communicate. I know I keep coming back to that, but communication in interpersonal relationships is so important to understanding each other, to not having um, confusion or having incorrect assumptions made. It can help you avoid arguments. Um, it just Communication is good. It's a good thing. So the final suggestion that I have, if you're going to navigate a relationship with someone bipolar, is to make sure that you know the situation when you really, really, we really need you to step up. In my experience, one of the hardest things to do when your life is falling apart as a person with bipolar, one of the hardest things to do is to tell someone what's going on, to be honest, and to ask them to help you. I know that the worse I get, the harder it is to say something to somebody, to admit what's going on, and that I can't handle it, and that things are really bad, and that I need help. Really hard to admit to anybody. I don't know why. I really don't know why it's so hard. I mean, for me, it's getting a little bit easier over time, but usually still what happens is by the time I admit that things are out of control, I'm on the brink of not being around anymore, on the brink of ending my life. And so the few times that I have reached out to someone when that happens, um, the responses that I've received have made me feel even worse. Like this person who's important to me, who I thought I was important to, doesn't care that I'm communicating that I'm about to go through. I'm about to go through with it. I'm about to take my life. They don't care. They don't care. My life doesn't mean anything to them. That's how it feels when, based on some of the responses that I've received, it feels like my life is worth nothing to this person who I thought cared about me. And that's really painful. It's really painful in that moment to feel like the people you care most about don't really care if you're gone, don't really care if you die. Um, I've been met with indifference, people really not acting like it's anything worth, saying anything about, doing anything about, worrying about. I've been ignored, you know, uh, interacted with as if I hadn't said it, as if I hadn't admitted these things. Um, I've been told I don't feel like it when I asked someone to come take my medications away so I wouldn't do something that there's no one doing. And the response I got was, yeah, I don't really feel like doing that today. Can I do it another day? Um, no, because if you try to do it another day, it's probably going to be too late. So why did I reach out? Why did I think that you would care and that you could be there for me and that you would help when it was almost over, when it was the worst it's ever been? And the big question for me is, why do people respond this way? And my best guess is that the situation made them uncomfortable. And I really do get it. I've been on that side. I used to teach, and I had students reach out to me who were on the brink of suicide, and it's scary. It is scary to realize that someone is suicidal and to feel like you don't know what to do. You don't know if you can help. And I totally understand that's really scary. But please, 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 if anyone ever tells you, and this isn't just people with bipolar, I mean anybody in your life tells you that they're a danger to themselves, or if you think they might be a danger to themselves, you know, um, please do something. Please do something. If there's a moment to step up and be there for them, that is the moment. That is the moment. So please do be there. Help them get to a hospital right away. Don't push it off. Don't ignore. Don't hesitate. Do something quickly. Um, Call an ambulance. Don't call the police, because that can turn ugly for the person with bipolar, or the person who's suicidal. Um, don't call the police. They're not trained to deal with mental health crises. Call an ambulance. Call an ambulance. Get them in a cab. Get them an Uber. Pick them up. Get them there yourself. Whatever you can do, just make sure they get to a hospital as soon as possible. Give them as little time as possible to do something harmful to themselves that there's no taking back. And trust me, a lot of us who have, or who are having a mental health crisis like that, a lot of us will insist that we don't want to go to the hospital. We don't need to go to the hospital. It's fine. It's fine. It's going to be fine. Um, but that's not true. It's not going to be fine. If I'm telling you that I am pretty sure that I shouldn't live anymore, I need help. I need someone to step in and help me get the help I need, even if I don't think I need it. Um, so please, please be there. Don't let them talk you out of getting them the help they need, because we're really good at that. I can't tell you how many times I've talked my way out of being hospitalized. A lot of times, unfortunately, far more than I should have. Okay, because we're really good at talking the talk. We know what questions doctors are going to ask, psychiatrists, therapists. We know what to say, what not to say, how to answer things based on, I don't really want to be hospitalized. These are the things I'm not going to admit, because otherwise I'm going to be involuntarily admitted. I'm going to get a 5150, and I don't want that. Well, don't let us don't don't let us lie our way out of it. If we reach out, if you can tell that something is very, very wrong and we can't be trusted to keep ourselves safe, get us to a hospital, because we will need help. We need inpatient if we can get it. So that's really the biggest thing you can do. for the person in your life who's having a mental health crisis, whether they're bipolar or not. It's the biggest thing you can do is make sure that they know that you value their life, that you care, and that you don't want them to die, and that you will do anything you can to keep them on this earth. That support makes such a difference. Such a difference. So really, what it all boils down to when you're navigating your relationships with someone with bipolar, platonic, romantic, familial, just try. Give it your best effort. Because we recognize that some days our best isn't never going to be perfect. That our best is different on any given day. But that doing your best is good enough. It's enough. It's okay. So please just try. I mean, I feel pretty confident in saying that we don't expect you to be perfect or to be there all the time. I know I just want people who are willing to try, who are willing to put time and effort and care into a relationship with me. Because if you're going to be in my life, I want you to really care about who I am, the good, the hideous, the in-between. Because all of that is me. All of that is who I am. And if someone isn't willing to try, if someone isn't willing to be around unless things are perfect in my life, they're not worth my time. They're not worth my energy. Doesn't matter how much they mean to me, doesn't matter how much I love them. It's not worth it. It's not worth feeling less than because of who I am. It's not worth feeling like there's something broken about me, something wrong with me that I can't fix. Feeling like I'm not good enough, like I'll never be good enough, like I don't deserve to be cared for or loved as I am. I don't need to carry that around with me. I have put far too much work into myself, and I'm not going to pretend for anybody, and I'm not going to feel bad about myself just so someone else doesn't feel uncomfortable, just so someone else doesn't have to deal with the difficult. The difficult is part of who I am. And if you can't deal with that, sorry. You miss out on all the amazing that is this right here. Because, we're amazing people. We are people. Yeah, we have bipolar, and that makes some things really difficult, but that doesn't negate the awesomeness that we bring to people's lives and can bring to people's lives if they give us a chance and they stick around and they try. They try to step up for us. So, if you have someone in your life with bipolar, I hope that some of this helps, even just the tiniest bit, make a difference in how your friendship, relationship, whatever, moves forward. So, if you have any thoughts or questions, please just drop them in the comments. Thanks for listening. I realize this turned into a very long video because I am quite verbose. I go on and on and on, and there was honestly just a lot to say. So, again, thank you so much for listening. This is your bipolar buddy Ren, signing off, sending love and support your way.